series, Evolutionize Your Life, has a component in it dealing with addictions, including one of the newest forms, internet gaming. Michael and I decided that we wanted to interview someone who had experience from the inside and has come out successfully through the other side. We needed to look no further than from within our own family. So here, you'll be listening to Michael Dowd and me interview his son, Shane Dowd. When it comes to the monkey mind, the neocortex, the monkey mind for quite a while has been known for gambling addiction. And recently now we don't hear much at all about gambling addiction anymore, but what we hear about is gaming addiction. Since you've had personal experience with that and also are part of a younger generation, you're 26 now and know people who play video games. First starting out, give us a sense of what was the game that you were playing, what was it like, and how old were you when you got into it? Were your peers playing it? That kind of thing.
Sure. The game that I was playing was called a first-person shooter, which just means that your character, the person you're playing, it's like you're looking through their eyes, and you're interacting with this kind of virtual world and these expansive environments that you can explore. And often you're playing one team against another team, and you're trying to capture their flag or something like that. And you have access to all kinds of extravagant, fancy weapons and grenades and tools of destruction to compete against the other team and win. And a lot of my real life friends actually did play the game with me. It was an online game. Sometimes you'll have a game that's you against a computer program.
Yeah.
This particular game was you against other real life people online, and everyone has their own character and is part of a team. And I got into that sometime during high school. I don't remember exactly when. I think one of my friends got me into an earlier version of the game, and then I started playing the updated version and played it all throughout high school and halfway through college before I kind of realized the impact that it was having on my life, and that I needed to stop playing it, basically.
If you could say a little bit more in terms of what did it do for you while you were playing it? Typically, how many hours a day or a week did you sort of, did that ramp up over time? Sort of what the benefits were and what the impact, both positively and negatively, were?
When I wasn't in school, I was either playing the game or interacting with the other people who played the game online in online forums and chat rooms and things like that. And I was also an athlete in high school, so it's not like I just went home and just played the game until school the next day or something. I was on a soccer team, and I would go hang out with my friends and stuff like that. So, just a couple hours after school, but often, late into the night sometimes after soccer practice or whatever. And the impact of that, it had a big impact in high school, because since I was devoting so much time to this online world and those people, and I wasn't doing schoolwork, and so much so that my grades suffered significantly. And I think my sophomore year or maybe junior year of high school, my grades suffered to the point where I was not eligible to play on the varsity soccer team, which was really, really embarrassing for me because all my friends were, and I was one of the better players on the team. And yet I couldn't play because I had like a 1.9 GPA or something like that. And so that it was a little bit of a wake-up call, but even still, it wasn't enough to make me quit the game or anything like that. I just, did a little bit better in school, got my grades up a little bit, and kept playing, which I think speaks to the power and the pull of this particular version of supernormal stimuli.
And clarify just something here, and that's that when you didn't make the varsity team junior year because of your grades, how did you keep playing soccer?
I could play on a club team because that didn't depend on my grades. And then just the next year, my grades had bumped up enough where I could then play my senior year.
Yeah. Well, from what you know now, you've been learning a lot about evolutionary brain science and evolutionary psychology. When you look back on your gaming days, what were you getting out of it that, despite the consequences, kept you gaming?
There was a lot. I mean, a game is basically like being placed down in the middle of the best action flick that you've ever seen, and being able to interact in that world and do all the things that you can't do in real life. And so it was just plain fun. It's just like a really great movie. It's super normal stimuli compared to the real world. But what kept me playing for so long with such a high level of engagement was also the social aspect of it. Like when you weren't playing the game, you were talking with your either online friends or maybe your real life friends that also play the game, but you were chatting with them online and you were talking about the game. You were talking about how to get better at the game. In a way, it's kind of like Facebook, like you're relating with your friends, but it's a couple steps removed from actually relating in the real world, because there's not all the subtlety and nuance that goes along with, interacting face to face with another human being. There's no body language. There's no intonation of your voice. It's still, you feel like you're bonding with those people, your teammates and your friends.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But there's also no risk of social rejection, which for a high schooler is a major, major concern.
Yes.
So it's like I'm getting all the benefits of bonding with these people and engaging kind of in a team sport with them. It's an online team sport. So that's, we're bonding over that. But if I do something that's a social faux pas, or I piss someone off, or someone doesn't like the way I am or something, they can't really cast you out of the in group. So I think that was a big reason why it was so compelling, because there was no social risk. And for a high schooler, your life is about which clique are you in and who's your friend, and are you a popular kid or are you a jock or a nerd or this or that. When you're part of an online community, you can create yourself to be whoever you want people to think you are. And it's kind of a running joke that some of the most socially awkward kids that you'll ever meet in real life, that just don't have the social abilities, they can tell everyone online that they're the captain of the football team and they're dating all the cheerleaders and they're rich and they're cool. So you can create yourself to be whoever you wish you could be in real life, because no one can see you in an online game.
Right, right. But you do have to be good at it, right? If you're not good at it, if you don't build up your skills, nobody's going to, it's like anything. Nobody's going to want you on their team, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the more you play it, the better you get at it. You can watch the other players that are really good play and see what they do, and then you get better at it. And again, there's no risk. Like usually if you're playing a team sport, it takes a lot of hard physical effort to be the best at that.
Yeah.
It takes the click of a mouse and some clicks on your keyboard thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So it's not physically demanding. So you can become the best without putting in any kind of intense physical effort. You just need time and dedication, basically.
Yeah.
We naturally want to conserve energy. So there's no energy really being expended when you're playing a game.
I remember there was one time when you were playing and I was over at the house I was visiting in Ann Arbor, and one of your friends, I don't even remember who it was now, took me aside because I was, I think, getting on your case about being quote-unquote addicted, and he took me aside. He said, "Did you know that Shane's one of the best in the nation in this game?" And I was like, "No." Go, dude. I'm curious, how did you allow this to not have negative influence in college, or did it?
It really did, actually. For the first 2 years, I kind of got my grades under control. Like I got that handled where I could still get better grades in college than I did in high school. But the biggest impact was on my relationships, especially with, I had a girlfriend who I had been dating in high school and I was dating in college too. And whenever I was in the middle of playing a game and she would call or come over or something, it was kind of like I didn't want to be pulled away from my game. If she was calling, I would be very short with her on the phone, like just like one word answers, like, yeah, okay, yeah, And so I wasn't investing into our relationship, which ultimately was one of the major reasons why we broke up, which really broke my heart. But that was the wake up call that I actually needed to see, like, holy crap, all the time that I'm investing in this is impacting my life so much that the girl that I love doesn't want to be with me because I'm not giving her enough time and attention.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've seen websites that are like gamer widows. That's where the spouses or partners, if it's generally men who are in the category of addiction for the games, will go online and support each other, and also the divorces that come as a result of it.
Yeah, it's a huge time sucker, and because it is super normal stimuli, it's better than a lot of things that you can do in the real world. And so just the pull of it is immense. There's even games now that are potentially more addictive than what I was playing. And I think you can make money a little bit with some of the games. And so that's just one more reason why people justify playing it more and more and more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a time sucker, but it also impacts your mood. Like, I noticed I was more irritable when someone wanted to have me focus on them rather than what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yeah.
And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the biggest long-term impact on me was because I was spending so much time interacting with online people and not real life people. Some of the social skills that a normal teenager kind of would have picked up, I think got delayed in me. And I was never one of those really, really awkward kids that just had no friends and couldn't get along, because I was social before I got into video games, and I was still involved in sports and had my friends and things like that. But I do have a general sense that being able to pick up on subtle social cues and have kind of social intelligence was blunted. And I had to consciously develop that in myself later in life by having more face-to-face interactions and taking transformational education and doing personal growth work and soliciting feedback from other people to see how I occurred to them, and kind of proactively developing social skills. And I fear that people that aren't as motivated to do something about the social awkwardness that they feel might have that impact of not having those skills developed last maybe their whole life.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
Because frankly, looking back at the email that you initially sent, I got the sense that a lot of what's going on in the video games, it's like you wish that you could get real life to be able to provide teenagers and young people with those same things. I mean, pride of accomplishment, the ability to feel that you're ramping up your skills, to care about how you're viewed by team members, and to have a real forge of teamwork there. And one thing you wrote, you said one of the main things about it is that when you do fail in a video game, you get killed or you just fail to accomplish something, you can immediately get back up. And like you just mentioned, if you tarnish your reputation, you can re-enter the game under a new avatar name and nobody knows it's the same person, and you can recover from social faux pas. Whereas you said in the real world, you said when something happens where you make a mistake, you can come out of it saying, I'm a failure, why try again?
Yeah, it's a really interesting perspective, because you can't deny that gaming and all supernormal stimuli have an extremely strong pull. So it's kind of like, okay, well, instead of condemning that and making it wrong, how do we use that to our advantage? How do we take all the best parts about gaming, like being able to incrementally get better and develop skills, being able to have a sense of accomplishment and victory, and to collaborate with other people and be part of something, be part of a team, which is, taps into our social instincts. How do we use that without the detrimental effects that supernormal stimuli often has?
Yeah. World of Warcraft was not around when you were gaming, was it?
No, I don't think so. I think that was just afterwards, and I had some friends that got into that and still play it.
One of the things that I learned about World of Warcraft, why that has caused marriages to break up and so forth, is that when you go offline and you're not gaming on World of Warcraft, the battle continues without you, and you and your team are losing ground.
Yeah, that is something that was not part of my game. Like we had like matches that were like playing a team sport. It's like you have a match for 60 minutes or whatever, and then it's done and you disconnect and you can go off and do something else. You could start another one immediately after if you wanted to, but the difference between World of Warcraft is it literally is in an online world that is always ongoing and it's growing and expanding, and it might even be evolving. Like I don't know much about it, but there's people playing it 24/7, moving around in the world. And so if you stop playing, just like you said, the other army is still moving.
Yes, yes. Well, there's a new game, and I just checked it out online. You can get on YouTube and you can see little clips of what it's like when someone else is playing. And it's called Angry Birds. And apparently it's attracting, let's say, soccer moms who always have their iPhone with them, and you're maybe stuck in a grocery line or something like that. But for 99 cents, you can download this app onto your iPhone and play Angry Birds. It's a solo kind of thing, but people are saying because of the immediacy of the rewards and the fact that you're pulled into it because there's nothing gory going on, you're not killing anybody, it's just these angry, fuzzy-looking little birds going after green pigs. It doesn't seem like it's a bad thing. People are saying it's even more addictive than World of Warcraft. Have you heard anything about Angry Birds?
A little bit. I mean, I think you sent me an article a while ago about it, and I hadn't really heard about it that much because I know now to avoid anything that is potentially intriguing to me, and it just doesn't call to me that much. But I know I have a couple friends that play it, like people that you would never expect to be gamers. Like you said, like soccer moms. One of my friends is just a young lady, and she says she plays it all the time. And I have never played it, so I can't say what is it that makes it so addictive. But it's interesting that the supernormal stimuli is becoming portable on our iPhones now, so we have access to it at any time.
Yeah.
Well, when you say that she's a friend of yours, when you get together as a group or however, is she there on her iPhone playing Angry Birds while conversation is going on elsewhere? I mean, what is she?
No, it's not that bad. But it's she's not forsaking real social interaction for Angry Birds or anything like that. But I do know that, anytime there's a spare moment, or maybe when she comes home from work or something, she might plop down and just start playing or something, just like someone might plop down and start watching their favorite TV show.
Yeah, what this reminds me of is the conversation that we had, and then the question and answer period that we had with Deirdre Barrett. And she was, I remember her saying that, most people are well aware of the addictive nature of a lot of hardcore drugs and how pleasurable they would be if they tried them, but they avoid them because they know how unnatural and how totally addictive they would be. And so most people don't try crack cocaine because they know that if they tried it, they would have difficulty not wanting it again, and so on and so forth with heroin and many other of the extreme forms of supernormal stimuli. And yet, because there's not the social stigma to things like romance novels and TV sitcoms and video games and online gaming and stuff like that, people can actually spend 3, 4, 5 or more hours a day doing this stuff and not be attending to their other relationships or other responsibilities or just their life.
I guess the question I have for you, Shane, is that given that you're sort of in this in-between zone, that you've not that long ago were caught up in that world and were a teen yourself, you have some insight that we don't have because gaming was never around for us. And I'm wondering that if we can use the puppets, the lizard legacy, or as you said, you invented the word Larry the lounge lizard. I love that.
Yeah.
The furry little mammal, the monkey mind, which we're doing right now, and then our higher porpoise, the prefrontal cortex, or the higher purpose. My sense is that I've already had a couple opportunities with first and second graders to use the puppets and a chart to kind of explain it to them and introduce it to them in fun ways. But I'm wondering if this vision that I have of actually bringing this in to kids' education and have them, before they're challenged in the way that pre-adolescence and adolescence are with social interactions and so forth, where they can get drawn into these supernormal stimuli. I'm wondering whether this might be a way to help the kids prepare for those kinds of stimulations and have a better opportunity for being able to see what's happening to them and maybe even say no and find some substitutions. I mean, what's your sense of educating kids about their evolved brain?
I honestly, I think that's kind of the only hope, because I'm certain supernormal stimuli of this nature is not going away. There's too much money to be made from it, and there's too many people unaware of how powerful of a pull it has, and unaware that it's going to suck you in unless you understand how much your brain wants to move towards video games and TV and things like that, like how powerful that is. And that if you can experience or hear about and really get in your bones the impact that it could have, which is a difficult thing to do because sometimes the impact is very subtle. Like if I tell a kid, this is going to impact your ability to socialize and pick up on subtle social cues, that's a hard thing for them to really see clearly. Like, oh yeah, I can see how that would happen.
Yeah.
So I think that getting them educated early enough so that they are kind of on the lookout for, oh, that's a supernormal stimuli and that really draws on my instincts, I'm going to avoid that completely. I think that's kind of the only hope. Basically finding a way of communicating it in a way that really lands over there with them. Those of us who know this information, that's what we have to do. That's what we have to figure out how to do and how to communicate most effectively.
Yeah, I think that would have to happen pretty much before it really happens, because again, we're also talking about a brain here that is very capable of rationalizing and self-justification. And so once you're drawn into an addictive activity, it's almost like you say you have to hit bottom in some way. In your case, it was your girlfriend basically leaving, and that piled on as well, recognizing how much time you were wasting, what it was doing for your grades, all that kind of stuff. I know of one mom who got so concerned about her son in high school with his gaming addiction that what she did was try to find a substitution that both had the kind of adrenaline and dopamine rush to it, but also gave an opportunity for socializing to happen in a way that's easiest for boys. And what she found was parkour, athletic activity that instead of it being the free running kind that happens in urban areas, actually had a place that you would go that had mats and so forth. But the boys could get that adrenaline rush of being scared to try a new trick, even though the mats there would prevent them from getting hurt. And then they could interact with one another in that comradely sort of way of shoulder to shoulder, out on a hunt together and seeing what kind of skills that they could build up. And apparently she's very happy with how it's working. It's a form of martial arts, so it's a lot of what you see happening in video games anyway, taking it into real life. I'm wondering, since you're a physical trainer professionally, do you think that might be something that you or someone else could help in interventions in high school with counseling the parents as to what they might do for intervening in a physical level, at least with the boys that have good physical coordination. The ones that don't, it's just going to make them even more unhappy.
The way I kind of picture it in my mind is picking them up and placing them in a different context where it's not even around. It sounds like the mother got her son interested enough in something else where he was in a new context, a new environment where it wasn't even an option. Like if I took you and put you in a small tribal community where it's not even an option to play, then there's no urge. Right. And we're not going to make the games and supernormal stimuli go away, but we might be able to find something else that is compelling enough to take up much or all of the kids' time in a healthy, productive way, like get them involved in some kind of team event. It could be athletic, it could be musical, it could be artistic, but just picking them up and placing them or having them move to a separate context where that pull of the supernormal stimuli in the games isn't even around for them to try to willpower and resist.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Well, yeah, and that's the piece that I think is vital to remember. To the degree that we, with almost any addiction or supernormal stimuli activity that could be addictive, to the degree that we try to willpower our own way through, we set ourselves up to have our self-deceptive instincts convince us it's just almost bound to failure. I think it's one of the reasons why in 12-step recovery and other recovery programs, the first step is to admit powerlessness. Some people, of course, balk at that language, understandably so. But really what it means is that your monkey mind isn't in control. And that's why I keep coming back to what I say often is that, especially in a world surrounded by supernormal stimuli, we're not going to live in integrity if we try to do it alone. We need each other.
Yeah, I've come to a place which you call an honorable stance towards your instincts. I see clearly the power that the little lizard that lives in my brain and the little monkey have. Millions of years of evolution is a long time. And so they want what they want. They want the tasty food. They want the entertaining video game. And so I couldn't really place myself in a new context to get away from that because I'm always going to have a computer around, but I can't have a video game on my computer. And it's been so long now that it's not even a draw for me. But at first I couldn't have it on and just choose to not play it. I had to delete it and get rid of the game.
Yeah.
And even still, there was a couple times where I kind of rationalized why it was okay to reinstall it because I had things handled now and slipped back into the same pattern. And so if I had known how much of a pull supernormal stimuli video games had on my instincts for new, novel, entertaining environments and sociality without any of the risk, I think I wouldn't have relapsed like 7 times and started playing again and then rationalized why it was all okay, only to just go through that same pattern over and over again.
Yeah, good point.
Very good point. Very good point.
I'm thrilled to see you on the other side of this and now being able to be of support to and insight and help others.
Yeah, thanks. It's a lot of fun kind of reflecting on it because my life is so different now than it was. I'm really looking forward to deepening my understanding of, all right, what do those deep inner parts of my brain want? And where are those around me in my environment? And what kind of structures of support can I put in place to resist or say, okay, I see what Larry the lizard wants. I see what my monkey wants, and not have those versions of supernormal stimuli kind of displace something else that I could be doing with that time.
Yeah, well, and I also hope that you get to the point of being able to do something that your dad and I are a little too far removed to be able to do, and that really is trying to think about how you can add on to the emphasis a lot of people have on physical training and bring this kind of mental understanding in as a training as well, in ways that work for young people, for teens and people in their 20s. I think that's the next step where our civilization really needs to go, rather than just us old folks kind of getting it,
Yeah, it's kind of sort of evolutionize your health and fitness defined broadly, where health is both mental health, relational health, and physical health, as well as fitness is relational fitness, physical fitness, and mental fitness.
Yeah, and I think once people get this concept of supernormal stimuli, which again, even though it was invented in the 1930s academically, it's really Deirdre Barrett who in 2010 brought it out into popular consciousness. I think it's such a great concept that once you get it, it applies to everything. And so it's kind of a systematizing principle that allows you to look out into the world and see all the different manifestations of this in a way that I think just about anybody can understand, versus having to tackle, well, let's tackle gambling now let's tackle drugs, no, let's tackle supernormal stimuli.
Yeah, it's great. I think the first step after just educating yourself about what is really running the show inside your brain, which is most of the time your inner lizard and inner chimp, is to find a way of coming to a place of compassion for how powerful those draws and urges are, and realizing that you couldn't really be any other way, and your son or your daughter or your spouse or whoever is addicted can't really be any other way because those urges have evolved for millions of years and are that powerful. And then after you can come to a place of compassion for yourself or them and a reverence for your instincts, the next question is then what? Like, what do you need to put in place, or what do you need to remove or take away so it's not a draw, or where do you need to put yourself where you're not tempted because you know how powerful it is and you have a respect for that? I think those are kind of the first three things. It's the knowledge, it's the compassion and the honoring, and then it's the structures that you need to put in place to make healthier, wiser choices for your life.